All right, welcome to week 2 of College Football Corner. I'm flying solo, hopefully not for too long. Hopefully Randy can get in here. I don't know if he's having technical difficulties or not, but we wanted to get the show going because we got some big news, as you can see on the screen. We are partnered with Dubby. Dubby is an energy drink that's really big into anime. If you're big into anime, it's the kind of thing you might want to look into. They got some really cool drinks mixes as well as cups and shakers that's got the anime characters on them, so that's neat there. And lots going on there. So you can see down here we have a w.gg is their website. If you order anything and put in FE Network, which is for the Fletch Entertainment Network, this is the whole collaboration here that College Football Corner is a part of, you'll get 10% off. So you can't beat that. And we're going to look to acquire some things and have some giveaways with some Dubby during the season. So stay tuned for all that. So that being said, welcome to week 2. We're potentially calling this early upset week only because when you have so many teams playing so many unranked teams, no big matchups except for a couple, a lot of times surprises come out of nowhere. So, our biggest game this week, obviously, as far as marquee matchups, tonight in Norman is the team up north, known as the Cheaters up north. I can say that because Ohio State playing Oklahoma. Of course, they got a freshman quarterback in the maize and blue going against the guy that is the first-year starter, I believe, for them, but he did some for last year. So it's going to be an interesting game in Norman. I think the hot seats are definitely on Brent Venables, especially if he doesn't win this game. If it's a tight game and it's a good battle, that means both teams are evenly matched. But I think they want a little bit more out of Venables' team. This is his third year there, and they had 2 6-win seasons last year. So I don't see Michigan, I can say that name, having any problems whether they win or lose. It wouldn't look too good if they were blown out. But their first year freshman starter quarterback who looks great. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. They got some weapons. They got a good defense, so things should be okay there. I look for potentially to Oklahoma to take care of business there just because they're at home. They got a little bit more cohesiveness with their squad. Not a whole lot, I don't think, because even though Sharon Moore is the newest coach there as a second year, he's been there already, so it's not like a whole new regime came in. So, I would expect that game to go, for the home team, but probably a close game. One thing for sure, starting off at noon, we definitely got some interesting games right off the bat. Illinois at Duke. For Big Ten fans, this would be a really interesting game to watch. Illinois is already ranked number 11 on the season. Rankings are what they may, but they're expecting a lot from that team. They have all 5 offensive linemen back from last year. In the college game, that's a kind of nice deal. You got that cohesiveness. You got 1 year more under their belt. Leadership, older veteran players. They got their Luke Altmaier, their quarterback, back. They do have a couple new receivers. They have a strong running game, decent defense. Going on the road at Duke to see how they play. If they come out with a nice win there or even a convincing win, that's going to say a lot about Illinois. Duke obviously is looking to say a lot about Duke. They're tough. They've always been a tough out. They're at home in the ACC. They're unranked. They're looking to knock off a Big Ten ranked team coming to town, and it could happen. So that's a good game to eye on. That's at noon on ESPN. Over on Fox, you got the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Is up to Iowa is traveling to Iowa State. Iowa unranked as a Big Ten team, and number 16 is Iowa State at home. They've already got, I think, 2 wins under their belt because they played in week 0, and they are looking to, solidify themselves as a potential top 10 team. They pull off a win against Iowa. I think it's a really good win because it's a Big Ten caliber school, and everybody knows Iowa is a tough out. They're always good on defense. They kind of lull you to sleep on offense, although they're looking to potentially have a more explosive offense. What does that mean in Iowa's terms? It may not mean as what everybody else thinks is explosive, because for them, explosive hasn't been a whole lot compared to what it normally has been. But we'll see what happens. But that's always a tough game. That those two teams really don't get along. They hate each other. They're fighting for the Cy-Hawk Trophy, and they fight through the fourth quarter to get that trophy. So that'll be a good game to keep your eye on. Potentially click over if that game is going the way a lot of people think it will go. A lot of other games that will be going on throughout the day that really is just ranked and unranked. So where the possible upsets come from, Baylor at SMU. SMU's 17. Baylor's not ranked, but Baylor was a really good team last year. SMU obviously went through the ACC with no losses. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Both got great coaches, Dave Aranda and Baylor. SMU, I can't remember that guy's name off the top of my head, but a nice job last year. Really good team, and they're at home. Probably lean with the home team on that one with SMU. Most people figure Vegas knows what other people don't know. Who really knows if they do or not? Texas Tech is hosting Kent State, and they've got a pile of money in their program from some of their donors in the last year. That's on 3 channels: TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. And Kent State, I'm sure they're getting a nice pile of money to go down there. Whether or not they can even stay in the game, who knows? But who knows really how good Texas Tech is going to be, or is right now, that's for sure. See some other games that of note. I don't think Texas A&M is going to have trouble with Utah State. Austin Peay shouldn't give Georgia any trouble. Grambling shouldn't give Ohio State any trouble. Interesting storyline, Oklahoma State at Oregon. Those guys were in the media this week talking about all the NIL money. Oklahoma State was, the coach, Gundy, was somewhat whining a little bit about how much money they get to spend versus Oregon, and Dan Lanning sent it right back at him saying, hey, we're proud to be in a place where they want to win, and they want to give you money to win, because that's what you got to do in this landscape until they change certain things. Teams with money are probably going to have better teams, schools with money for their football program. It's not a guarantee, but it'll put you in a good spot because you can pay players. And I know you're not supposed to pay players, but none of that's being regulated right now. So that's going to have to change for that to make a change. Clemson coming off a big loss to LSU. Tough loss, not a bad loss because it is LSU. Playing Troy. Troy's always a tough out, but I don't think Clemson will have a problem with them. But if they do, then Clemson may not be what we think they're going to be, but I don't see that happening. Ole Miss, number 20, going to Kentucky. Now, this is a ranked team on the road in a hostile environment against a team that pushed them to the rim last year. So conventional wisdom is Kentucky's going to be looking out for blood, although everybody's gone for the most part. The quarterback and a lot of the players are into the NFL. So one thing about Ole Miss, great offense. Usually the defense isn't really stout. Kentucky, kind of usually the opposite. Really good defense. They're looking for points. So the strength of wills in that game will determine it. Yeah, I kind of want to lean to Kentucky on this one. I say this could be an upset in the making because they're at home. They got home cooking, 3:30 and a kick. Ole Miss is coming up, and we'll see. See Tennessee, Kansas, and Missouri, 2 unranked teams, 2 really good unranked teams that have been really good in the last couple of years. That's going to be a fight, and both those teams are looking to be relevant in the Big 12 and the SEC. Kansas in the Big 12, Missouri in the SEC, and I'm not saying they're going to win it, but they're relevant. They're going to have a say. Kansas could probably win the Big 12 more likely than Missouri to win the SEC, but anything can happen. It is college football. Bowling Green, Cincinnati. That's Eddie George coming off his first win, traveling down the road to Big 12 school to take on UC, and that's not a terrible game for them. Neither team is ranked, and Bowling Green is tough. We'll see how tough they are. And I don't mean toughness. I mean, are they a tough game to play? As Cincinnati, they looked pretty good. Earlier, I think it was week 0 they played against Nebraska, and it wasn't that bad of a game for the UC. I thought that was a decent loss. They had a chance to win it with a pick at the end. So that'd be a nice win for Bowling Green. Cincinnati, I should be expected to win at home. Where else we got some games? Wisconsin, they're waiting one more week to go, I think, host Alabama. That's going to be a nice game. I think that's next week if there's not a bye. Florida and South Florida, there's another one. Florida's at home. They're ranked 13th. They've had a slow start the last few years. They got South Florida coming to town. I think they're going to handle business, barring injuries and some weird stuff. South Florida's a tough out, though. That is not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. So that's an American team, I believe. So with look for the Gators to hold court there and remain relevant in the SEC. Utah, big win last week. They're playing Cal Poly. They should be playing the bums in the fourth quarter, but it's not the second half by the third quarter at least. Shouldn't have a problem with Cal Poly at all. I was surprised Cal Poly didn't have a football team. Bethune-Cookman in Miami. I think that's one of the cheapest tickets around because it's Bethune-Cookman. Coming off a nice win against Notre Dame, they should just roll Bethune-Cookman, get some other guys do some experiments in the first half with your offense and let Carson Beck cook and then bitch them all in the second half when you got a big lead. South Carolina State. I don't know how much bad blood there is there. So in South Carolina, Lenore Sellers looked good at times, but they look kind of questionable at times. I think he's still getting his game going in, but they really shouldn't have trouble with South Carolina State at all. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of really marquee matchups. LSU, Louisiana Tech. I don't see any problems there. Arizona State going to Mississippi State. I know a lot of guys from last year, Arizona State, aren't there. No Cam Scadaboo, but Levitt is still there. Yeah, it's on the road, and you are a road favored home dog, Mississippi State. Mississippi State was the worst team in the SEC last year, so that would be a huge jump and a huge upset if they could pull it off. I don't think they can, but if they do, big upset, Mississippi State if they beat Arizona State. And there's Oklahoma and Michigan, 7:30 on ABC. 15 and 18, it's pretty much tight rankings, and I think it's going to be a tight game, as I mentioned earlier. Akron on the road in Nebraska. Akron usually has a decent offense. Hostile environment in Nebraska, so not expecting that Nebraska to lose. They are a tough team, and at home was some record sellout. I don't even know what number that's at. They've sold out every game since I think Gerald Ford was in office, something like that. Here's another good one: Boston College traveling to Michigan State. Michigan State went up to Boston College last year, and I think they had a good chance to beat them. They didn't win. Boston College doesn't have Castellanos anymore. He's in Florida State. Now Boston College's got to travel to East Lansing. That's 7:30 on Peacock and NBC. I'm taking Spartans on that one. No team is ranked, so it's not necessarily an upset, but I think Sparty is going to win that game and look good for the Big Ten. I think I might have nope. I thought Randy was in there, but he's not. So keep going. Alabama, University of Louisiana Monroe. They should be okay. I would hope they'd be okay. They're not the Alabama we have seen since Saban's left. They're different. Hopefully they're figuring themselves out. They're getting their identity. They're getting the guys to buy in. I did see a lot of standing around on some of them plays last week when they were getting absolutely boat raced. Boat race might be a little strong. They were handled physically for sure by Florida State. And Florida State obviously was looking to right the wrong of last year and 2 wins only. And they did at least for 1 week. If for any reason Alabama just can't handle Louisiana Monroe, even if they win, if it is a convincing win, it's just not good. Not good look for Kalen DeBoer. I went back through his history, of Washington, and then, he's most of his games, they score points, but they are not shutting people out. They are not holding teams to low scoring. So I don't know if that's just his pedigree with defense. They don't really look at defense. They don't practice it. They don't scheme it up. I'm not sure. But it's kind of holding serve so far with his in his second year and his first year last year. So let me see. BYU and Stanford. Yeah, that's a nice looking game. Big 12, I think BYU is, as well as Stanford is ACC. And yeah, that's about the wrap up on this week. So that's what's running down. Like I said, Illinois and Duke, really tough game. Let's talk about last week a little bit. We'll talk about the Buckeye game because I'm obviously an Ohio State fan. What did I think about the Buckeye game? I really liked it. I said last week, you can see it on tape. I figured it would be a low-scoring game, defensive game. Starting new quarterbacks, 2 defenses, both coming back from last year. On paper, it seemed like Texas had the upper hand on defense because they had a lot of guys returning. One of the best sack guys on defense, I think his name is Simmons. And same defense coordinator. Ohio State's got 2 new coordinators, offense and defense. The whole front line went to the NFL, and as well as like Lathan Ransom and some other guys. And then on offense, they lost both running backs. one wide receiver, one of the good ones, Emeka Ibuka, the only one that wasn't better than Jeremiah Smith, so to speak. Veteran for sure. Tate's really good. There's no doubt. Ibuka just was a proven commodity. And he lost a few guys on offensive line. One of them they had already lost for the season last year. That's now at Kansas City. Didn't play well. Well, he played well last night. Kansas City did. So what I think, I thought it would be a low-scoring game, defensive struggle, and both teams not wanting to give too much to the quarterbacks. Not that they didn't trust him as much as they're brand new and they're going against really good defenses. These might be some of the better defenses each one will see for the rest of the year. That especially for Ohio State. I don't know if they'll see a defense as good as Texas on their schedule. Texas might see some good defenses on their schedule in the SEC, especially with Georgia, potentially South Carolina, even though that maniac on defense, that sack master, he's in the NFL now. But there's some other good teams. I want to say Florida is decent on defense. SEC is just so deep. So we'll see what happens in those leagues. Penn State should be a good defense that Ohio State will see. Whether or not they'll be as good as Texas, I don't know. They do got Jim Knowles now, but Jim Knowles definitely took a little while to get his scheme up and running in Ohio State. Whether or not he has the same time or needs it in Penn State, we'll see. So now as far as what did happen in Ohio State and Texas, I was very pleased with. Their defense, Ohio State's defense, looked incredible. They scheming it up. Pat Patricia did some really nice things in there that they hadn't seen before. Some nice mix-ups of coverages. It definitely looked like Arch Manning was definitely confused, and I'm not taking anything away from Arch Manning. Dude just started his first game as a real starter where the keys are his, and he knows he's the man on the road, and 110,000 something people, 108,000 I think, at the shoe, crazy environment, defending national champions, reigning national champions, technically. Big, and this is the team that just beat you in the last game, which was back in January. Last year was last year, this year is this year. It's probably a really good game for Arch Manning out of the box because, like I said, he's probably not going to see anything better than that for a while or as good as that for a while. So I expect him to come out this week and they'll just open the playbook up and start lighting it up and start letting him run, cook, so to speak, get his feeling on it because it was tough goings last week. Same for Julian Sayin. They had a great defense. Ohio State's offensive line really looked good. If you watch, there's video out there. There's a Penn State fan who did a video on Luke Montgomery where he was just mauling guys. They were pushing guys back. The guys looked like they were on ice skates. Their feet were sliding on the turf. It was just really tough. No sacks allowed by the Buckeyes last week. And the one time that Texas had a good chance of getting a sack, guy came free and Sayin looked and got the ball off to the guy. I can't remember if he caught it or not, but he did get the pass off before the guy got there. So what do I like about Sayin? Quick release. The guy makes quick, good decisions. He's got a quick release. I don't know how strong his arm is. We'll see how strong his arm is. He did underthrow a Tate, but that's okay because, seriously, sometimes you can put it up there and you let the guys go get it. And so we'll see how he goes at the deep ball. I would imagine he's pretty good at deep ball for them to give him the starting job over Kienholz, however you say his name. Big dude, big arm. Definitely not the pedigree from high school that Sayin had, him coming from, I think, South Dakota area. Just probably didn't see a lot of crazy defenses like you see in California and stuff where I think Sayin's from and stuff. I think he's from California. Anyways, so, decision making, they said, is the best thing about Sayin and his calmness. I mean, he was, if you watch that game again, do it on the, N60 or go to YouTube and do it in 20 minutes, 40 minutes. You'll see some of the last plays of that game and that last drive before we gave him the ball back. Sayin was keeping them, down to inside 5 seconds for a snap of the ball. It's a couple times they're coming out, it's 12 seconds. He's like, hold up, he had a real good command of the game. Great decisions, never turned the ball over, never took a sack, and always had good things happening and knew when to throw it away if he needed to. So looked good. For a first game out, looked really good. He's only been in the system for 1 year. It's his second year in the system, and he's got the keys. So great game. Florida State and Alabama. We can't get Randy's take on that. He hasn't come in yet. Hopefully he can, but we'll see. What I took on that is I really think Kalen DeBoer, there's a couple things going on there. Hopefully the fans got to understand it's just not going to be what Saban did. It may never be what Saban did again, and I mean that for every team in football. Nobody's ever done what Saban did, and that's the reason, because he had it going on. He's a great coach. He got accountability out of his players. He got blood, sweat, tears out of his players, and he was able to keep things turning around. Saban lost so many people to other schools, coordinators and stuff, and he just kept finding guys to come in. He just had a heck of a way of doing it. You got to tip your hat to him. He did it like nobody else has, and probably, like I said, nobody else will again. So what's happening is I think there's a little bit of unrealistic expectations. I think the team itself has had an issue last year and a little bit this year, only one game in, but last year especially, and believing the scheme and buying into it. That one DB last year just throwing a fit in the Vanderbilt game and not wanting to come off the field, that would have never flown under Saban's watch. It's just, what you don't see is that the team there is really bought into it. And that's going to hurt DeBoer. If he's able to make it a couple more years and get what would be his recruits in, so to speak, and that ain't cracking on the recruits that are there. Saban was a heck of a recruiter. Alabama recruited well. Are these guys buying into it? So when he gets new recruits in it over the couple of years and guys move on, some moved on right away. Caleb Downs, the center, and saying all came to Columbus last year. I can't remember the center's name, but other guys went to other places. But the thing is, getting your recruits to buy in the system. And then the system's got to be a good system. What you scheme has got to work. You got to scout the other team. You guys got to stay in and get things done and do it the right way. So can he do all that? The guy did make it to a national championship game with Washington. That says something. So can he do it? Yes, he can. Will it happen? Only time will tell. But I think what has been happening last year, especially and after one game, is they're just not there. There was some very bad tackling against Florida State. There were some plays where it's like, why did that guy hit that guy? He just kind of stood there. I just don't know if they're confused. They don't understand the scheme. They don't, their roles. Maybe they're remembering the wrong things from the previous, regime and Saban. Who knows? But they're just not playing well as a unit, and that's what they need to do better, especially on defense, if they're going to stay in games. Offense, there was some overthrows, but I think the quarterback's a nice quarterback. They got weapons. They got Ryan Williams. Dude's a massive weapon. They got other guys too, though. The defense has got to play better to keep them in games. They're going to do it this week. If they don't, that's crazy, but they should win this week. But that defense has got to get better, keep them in games so the offense can find a way to sustain drives, keep the defense off the field so they don't get wore out, get points, and then have the defense give it back to them. So that's the Alabama game that as I saw with Florida State. Now, what did Florida State look like? They look like a team absolutely, ticked off to keep it nice, keep it clean. They were hungry. They were hungry for blood. They had this game on the calendar. They knew it was coming. They saw it, and they've been pumping iron since their last game last year for this game right here. They got a great quarterback in. That dude's an absolute beast, and he's setting the tone with his work ethic and what he does in the field. And guys are saying, man, this guy's giving us everything. We're going to give everything. And Will Howard had that same effect on a lot of the offense at Howard State He came in. He's not the greatest. He's not Brady, if you will, or not Brady from college, but I tell you what, he had a great attitude. He had a great leadership skills. He's a big dude. He ain't afraid to run. He ain't afraid to get hit. And he throws a nice ball. And, did he make some mistakes? Sure, but not when they got into the CFP. Man, he was lights out. And they were awesome. Great leadership skills. And that's what I think they got right now after one game. It sure looked like Castellanos is the right guy for the right job. And they are rolling. So we'll see what Florida State's going to do. It won't take them very long to get up and be relevant if they win like that against other teams when they play them. This week, obviously, it's not a big team. So as they roll this team, then they're just looking like they might be back. We'll see what happens against better opponents. And that's kind of the way it is for most great teams. You know, Clemson and LSU last week. What a game. What a game. I think both those teams should be fine. I know people are saying certain things about Dabo and they're talking back and forth and all that. That's all media stuff. Great coach Dabo is. Great team. They look good. LSU, 4 straight opening losses. They were not going to lose a fifth, and that's a road loss. Would have been a road loss. It's a road game they won. So nice win for LSU going into Small D Death Valley. Whoever lost that game got a Small D, and bringing a win home for LSU. So very good win for them. LSU looks good. Any surprises last week other than the Bama Florida State, which wasn't surprised they lost. Boy, it was surprised how well Florida State played. People were wondering, man, what can that team do coming back from the 2-win season? They looked really good against what should be at least it's really good talent. Alabama does not have bums on that team, so that'll be interesting this week. Let's see. I think that might be all of it. Just quickly, once again, w.gg. That's their website, www.w.gg. If you're into anime, they got some really cool looking stuff with anime characters on it. They do have caffeine-free versions of their drinks as well as regular. Their energy goes as far as they're saying, let me read it here, that they are more into jitterless energy blend. So they're not really, there's all kinds of cool stuff they got, but it's all very jitterless and focus based to give you more focus. It could be some, whether they can prove that or not, who knows. We're partnering with them. They're going to get us some stuff. I got some stuff on order. We want to give stuff away. We just want to see if we can do things for them and they can do things for us to make this podcast grow. So if you watching this on YouTube, give us a bell hit the bell for notifications, subscribe. Facebook, give us a like. Stay with the program. Enjoy the other videos that are on the Fletcher Entertainment Network. Some great interviews with all kinds of different people all over the spectrum of types of people. I interviewed a guy that does pictures of the night sky and also does tours of the Aurora Borealis and tours of Iceland with the volcanoes and the glaciers. And he teaches you how to take pictures of all that stuff so you can have high quality pictures. I've also interviewed a guy who's former military, retired cop, who is huge into Star Wars. And when I say huge, the guy's like 6'9", but in addition to that, he's got full getup Darth Vader, full getup Wookiee, and this is the professional stuff. They go out and he's part of the 501st. Big stuff. He's got tons of stuff. We got some really good. I did 2 podcasts with him, one about his life outside of the Star Wars and then one with the Star Wars. And we could probably get to talk for 2 or 3 more hours. Maybe I'll get him back on the horn again. And I got other ones. I got a good friend that was served as a guard for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Great one to watch. Just stay with us. If there's anything you want to see or hear, shoot us a chat or a text or whatever, not text, a comment, and let us know. We'll do our best to get that stuff in there. So watch the games today. It's like I said, Illinois at Duke and Iowa State at 12. 2 big games, both at noon. Buckeyes on at 3:30. Enjoy the football, everybody, and we will see you next week.